Welcome back to the channel. Here you'll find the fastest updates on breaking news, shocking secrets, and dramatic predictions for times. The young and the restless. Who will betray whom? What secrets are about to be revealed? And what horrific tragedy awaits the characters in Genoa City? Subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us to discover the unmissable developments right now. Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful day. We are thrilled to bring you the latest, most explosive updates from Genoa City. The drama is reaching unprecedented heights, and the emotional wreckage left behind is truly something. Let us dive straight into the heart of the chaos, where a high society event is about to become ground zero for an unforgettable psychological war. The atmosphere in Genoa City has been suffocating under the weight of countless suppressed secrets and toxic alliances, but no dynamic is more volatile than the terrifying triangle forming between Phyllis Summers, Matt Clark, and Sienna Bacall. Phyllis has recently crossed a point of no return, having successfully orchestrated the illegal removal of Matt Clark's electronic ankle monitor. In her mind, this act of blatant defiance against Victor Newman and the local authorities was the ultimate declaration of her devotion. She has convinced herself that Matt is a reformed man, entirely ignoring his predatory history and the catastrophic damage her actions have caused to her own family. Her manic triumph in securing Matt's freedom has slowly morphed into a blinding, suffocating paranoia, driven by the subconscious realization that she has sacrificed her entire world for a man who might still be profoundly obsessed with another woman. The psychological toll of Phyllis's decisions cannot be overstated. By aggressively pursuing a restraining order against Nick Newman and forcing her traumatized daughter, Summer, to testify in open court, Phyllis effectively burned her familial bridges to the ground. Daniel and Summer have completely alienated her, viewing her romantic entanglement with Matt as a grotesque betrayal of their safety and sanity. Stripped of her children's love and isolated from her former support systems, Phyllis has placed the entirety of her self-worth and emotional stability onto Matt's shoulders. He is her final desperate gamble. Because she has lost everything else, her possession of him must be absolute. Any threat to their relationship is not just a romantic inconvenience. It is an existential danger that threatens to expose the horrifying reality that she destroyed her family for a manipulative sociopath. Unbeknownst to Phyllis, her darkest fears are entirely justified. Matt Clark has been utilizing his newfound, unmonitored freedom not to build a future with Phyllis, but to secretly reestablish contact with his former victim, Sienna Bacall. Matt's predatory nature thrives on dual manipulation. He deeply enjoys using Phyllis as a fiercely loyal, fiercely defensive shield against the Newman family, while simultaneously sinking his psychological claws back into Sienna. He has expertly weaponized nostalgia and false promises of redemption, manipulating Sienna into believing that the monster who once terrorized her has been replaced by a misunderstood, deeply remorseful. This clandestine double life has set the stage for an apocalyptic collision as Phyllis's hyper-vigilant jealousy begins to piece together the subtle discrepancies in Matt's behavior and his unaccounted-for absence. Sienna Bacall's emotional state is a tragic tapestry of unresolved trauma and dangerous naivety. Despite the horrific abuse she previously endured at Matt's hands, she has found herself caught in a highly toxic psychological trap, drawn back into his orbit by his carefully calculated displays of vulnerability. She has been secretly meeting with him, entirely unaware that her actions have not only jeopardized her own safety, but have completely shattered the heart of no. Sienna genuinely believes she is witnessing a miraculous transformation in Matt, allowing herself to be blinded by the sweet words and manipulative apologies he feeds her during their hidden. She carries the heavy burden of this secret, trying desperately to navigate her shifting feelings without triggering a massive explosion among the people who fought so hard to protect her from him in the first place. The inevitable detonation of this deeply unstable dynamic finally occurs at a highly publicized, incredibly opulent, high society gala in the heart of Genoa City. The event is a masterclass in superficial elegance, filled with the city's wealthiest and most influential elite, all masking their own dark secrets behind crystal champagne flutes and designer gowns. The ballroom is bathed in the warm glow of massive chandeliers, accompanied by the soft, sophisticated melodies of a live string quartet. It is the absolute worst possible environment for a visceral, emotionally unhinged confrontation, making it the perfect stage for Phyllis Summers to unleash her devastating, uncontrollable wrath upon the woman she perceives as the ultimate threat to her fragile reality. Phyllis arrives at the gala already vibrating with an intense, barely contained. Her eyes, sharp and predatory, continuously scan the crowded room, completely ignoring the polite greetings of passing socialites. She is a woman on a mission, driven by a gnawing, agonizing suspicion that Matt's recent emotional distance is directly tied to the woman he used to control. When her piercing gaze finally locks onto Sienna Bacall standing near the grand staircase, the physiological reaction within Phyllis is instantaneous and terrifying. A dark tunnel vision takes over, drowning out the music and the chatter of the crowd. All the insecurities, the guilt over losing her children, and the sheer terror of being abandoned by Matt coalesce into a blinding, righteous fury directed entirely at Sienna. Abandoning all pretense of social decorum and grace, Phyllis begins a deliberate, menacing march across the expansive ballroom floor. Her movements are sharp and calculated, radiating an aura of such intense hostility that the surrounding guests instinctively step aside, their conversations faltering as they sense the impending collision. The atmosphere in the immediate vicinity drops in temperature, the polite veneer of the gala instantly shattering under the weight of Phyllis's impending eruption. She does not care about the judging eyes of the Genoa City elite. She only cares about establishing absolute dominance and eliminating the shadow of Sienna Bacall from her desperate, fractured life. Upon reaching Sienna, Phyllis aggressively invades her personal space, closing the distance until they are mere inches. The initial phase of the confrontation is delivered in a low, venomous hiss, a concentrated stream of territorial warnings designed to shatter Sienna's composure. Phyllis explicitly stakes her claim over Matt, outlining the immense sacrifices she has made to secure his freedom and demanding that Sienna sever all ties with him immediately. She weaponizes Matt's newfound liberty, portraying herself as his savior and ultimate partner, while degrading Sienna to the status of a pathetic, lingering ghost from a past Matt is desperately trying to escape. Phyllis's eyes burn with a manic intensity, fully expecting the younger, historically traumatized woman to crumble under the sheer force of her intimidation. However, the psychological dynamic between the two women takes a shocking, unprecedented turn. Instead of shrinking away or dissolving into tears, Sienna stands her ground with an infuriatingly calm and resolute defiance. The manipulation she has endured from Matt has twisted her perception, granting her a false sense of security and a misplaced belief in her own connection. Sienna refuses to be bullied, subtly pushing back against Phyllis's aggressive posture. She maintains her composure, delivering a quiet but devastatingly firm response that challenges Phyllis's entire narrative. Sienna's refusal to yield, her quiet confidence in Matt's lingering affections, acts as highly combustible gasoline poured directly onto the raging inferno of Phyllis's deep-seated insecurities. The confrontation rapidly breaches the threshold of public decency, escalating from a venomous whisper into a massive, echoing public spectacle. Phyllis, completely losing her grip on her tightly wound composure, allows her voice to rise above the music, her words echoing off the marble pillars of the grand hall. The argument becomes a chaotic exchange of brutal, unspoken truths and sharp, devastating. While avoiding explicit confessions that could legally implicate Matt, the two women hurl emotional daggers at one another, tearing apart each other's history, sanity, and worthiness. The sheer volume and intensity of the dispute bring the entire gala to a grinding, horrified halt, transforming the elegant gathering into a captive audience for a deeply humiliating psychological bloodbath. The social fallout is instantaneous and catastrophic. The elite of Genoa City watch, in a state of captivated horror, their whispers spreading like wildfire through the ballroom. For Phyllis, this public meltdown is the final nail in the coffin of her reputation. Already viewed as a pariah for her hostile takeover of Newman Enterprises and the subsequent legal warfare against her own family, this unhinged display of possessive jealousy cements her status as a chaotic, destructive force. For Sienna, the public exposure is a humiliating, traumatic ordeal, forcibly dragging her private vulnerabilities and her deeply controversial connection to Matt into the unforgiving spotlight of high society. The damage inflicted in these few explosive minutes will leave permanent, unhealable scars on both of their lives. Just as the verbal warfare threatens to escalate into physical violence, Matt Clark finally materializes from the crowd, his carefully constructed facade of a reformed gentleman cracking under the immense pressure of his colliding worlds. Internally, Matt is seething with a predatory frustration, furious that his meticulous, dual-layered manipulation has been dragged into the public eye, stripping him of his control over the narrative. Outwardly, he attempts to play the desperate peacemaker, rushing forward with a mask of frantic concern. He tries to inject himself between the two furious women, utilizing soothing gestures and urgent, hushed commands in a desperate bid to de-escalate the situation and salvage his precarious position in Genoa City. The physical struggle to separate Phyllis and Sienna becomes a chaotic, visceral display of the triangle's ultimate toxicity. Matt physically steps between them, raising his hands in a frantic attempt to create a barrier, but his intervention is completely unsuccessful. Both women are entirely consumed by their respective emotional fires, refusing to back down or break eye contact. Phyllis attempts to push past him, her manic need to assert dominance overriding any sense of self-preservation, while Sienna stubbornly refuses to retreat, her misplaced pride anchoring her to the spot. The three of them become locked in a tense, humiliating struggle in the center of the ballroom, a physical manifestation of the manipulative, destructive web Matt has woven around them both. As the chaotic struggle reaches its terrifying zenith, a far more dangerous threat looms silently in the periphery. High above the ballroom floor, concealed within the shadows of the grand balcony, stands Noah Newman. His eyes are cold, devoid of any remaining warmth or mercy, completely consumed by an apocalyptic rage as he watches the woman he loved publicly fight over the monster who destroyed her. In his hand, a camera captures every humiliating, devastating second of the confrontation, solidifying the undeniable proof of Sienna's betrayal and Matt's continued manipulation. The explosive love triangle below is entirely unaware that they are being observed by a man who has completely abandoned his moral compass. As the flash of Noah's camera silently cuts through the darkness, a catastrophic retaliation is set into motion, promising to unleash a wave of vengeance that will obliterate Matt, shatter Sienna, and drag Phyllis into a nightmare far worse than anything she could have ever imagined.